Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's session for Equity Through Engagement. We are excited to be sharing some ideas with you and collaborating with you on some of the ideas that we have for strengthening equity through an existing model that most, if not all of us, are already using in our supervisory practices. Matt, I think you're doing an introduction first.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Good morning. Glad you all are here. Thank you for being here. My name is Matt Wallace. I am a lecturer and supervisor at UC Davis, which is to say that half of my time working is spent supervising. The other part of my time is spent teaching the people I'm supervising.
My name is Lola Muldrew. I am currently the Associate Chair of the Teacher Education Program at UC Davis. I've been in math education for almost 30 years. My last gig, I taught at a K-12 school, high school math. And I'm excited to be back in the School of Education where I got my PhD, being able to serve a program that was very kind to me.
And hi, everybody. My name is Amy Huang, and I'm a lecturer supervisor at San Jose State. Like Matt, I spend part of my time supervising and part of my time as an instructor. And my background is in math education. So you'll see today that there's a, an interesting kind of lens that one might not have noticed in STEM or in math and science, but it's applicable to all content areas. I primarily work in science now, so science methods and science candidates. And that's at the single subject and multiple subject levels. Okay, so we're going to go on to our next one. So our agenda for today, we're going to start off with a little reflection on a quote, and then share our ideas about an engagement cycle, go through how that connects with UDL and how we can really concretize some of those ideas. And then we're going to share some time for you to explore and make it specific to your disciplines or your candidates. Okay.
Before we get there, though, just want to make sure we all have a shared understanding of some things that we think are important. So as we engage with each other and as we engage with ideas during this workshop, we have some norms that we think will be particularly useful to get the most from our time together in this session. So we hope that you'll be mindful of the norms that you see here throughout the rest of our time today. One, we think it's really important to speak from the I perspective, and I think this goes all the way back to what Lisa had mentioned early on, is we all have a lot of experiences and knowledge and expertise. It's really important to share with each other, to learn from one another. So really speak our truths, coming from from your own perspective. Step up, step back. This is going to be different for everyone. So for some of you who like to talk, it might be important and helpful to step back a little bit and allow other people some opportunities to share their ideas from an I perspective. For others, we really want to encourage you, maybe if you're not as talkative, to step up, push yourself to really share your ideas and your expertise and everything else during the session. And we hope that you'll take an opportunity to challenge yourself. Maybe it's in speaking, maybe it's in entertaining ideas that you may or may not have considered in the past. Maybe it's stepping outside of your comfort zone, but in lots of different ways. We think that will be particularly useful. Communicate respectfully. Hopefully that goes without saying. So I'll move on to the next one. Nurture connections with others. So again, we all really have a lot to share, and we have a lot to learn from each other. So really nurture that interactions and the connections with one another. And we're all Zoom experts now, so just quickly want to ask all of you to unmute and speak up when it makes sense to do so. But in other times when it doesn't make sense, we invite you to use the chat for questions, comments, affirmations, and so forth. And one of us, if not all of us, will be managing the chat and try to get to your questions, comments, and so forth as soon as possible.
All right, so here's let's start with a reflection. This is a quote from Maria del Carmen Salazar, who was summarizing some research by Frere, Prince Osborne, and Roberts. A humanizing pedagogy is a process of becoming for students and teachers. So we'd like you to take about 30 seconds. What does this quote mean to you? When you hear this quote, what does it mean to you? Take about 30 seconds to reflect, jot down some notes, draw what comes to mind. And then we're going to take a couple of volunteers to share what their thoughts are. Seeing some notes in the chat here. All right. So in the chat, we have Rebecca Ambrose has said, process of becoming suggests that we are always growing and learning over our lifetimes. Nicole says, we are all performing to become. We are never done learning, says Rosemary. If anyone would like to speak, if you don't want to type it into the chat, you're welcome to, I guess, go ahead and unmute yourself and speak.
Lifelong learners.
I like that. Kirsten says, we are never done. Pause for a few more seconds and see if anyone else wants to share.
Yeah, actually, if we can go to the next slide, sorry to jump in here, but we were hoping to get all of you to chime in by thinking about the word becoming and a way to do that. So Amy, if you wouldn't mind. There we go.
And I'm enjoying the sentences in the chat as well. A learning process to get to where we need to be. Courage and becoming are sorry, my scroll is here, are intricately linked. Okay, yes. So more specifically, honing in on the word becoming, what words come to mind when you see or hear the word becoming? So when you see or hear the word becoming, what do you think about? So go ahead and share those words in the chat. Growth mindset, evolving, a cycle of reflection and growth, work in progress, care, curiosity, becoming oneself, empathetic, mindful, identity formation. Like this process of evolution, growing and changing, learning and growth, multiple identities, growing. I used to think versus I now think. Intersectionality, growing into our best and highest self, growth. Taking risks. Evolving.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love all of these adjectives. Oh, blossoming.
Yeah, to be the complete flower.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And there are some ideas. I believe Farah had an idea that was also just that, you know, perhaps it's not possible to become to be fully human. We can only be more fully human. And that's such a wonderful idea as we go forth. And I know a lot of us think of, you know, wow, you know, these wonderful ideas of becoming and really truly growing into who we are, our authentic selves, our you know, quote unquote real selves. And as supervisors, it's, you know, obviously the logical, you know, thought here is then how can this happen? And how can we become in the classroom context? Because sometimes, as we know, students don't have opportunities to become, and sometimes they do. So what are some ways that we might be able to first think about this process of becoming and then enact it so that it's a more concrete for not only us, but also our teacher candidates and the students that we all serve? So we're going to share with you a cycle that we think helps us become. So if we start off with pedagogy here, then we have experiences and identity. And I'd like you to take a moment now, probably just about 30 seconds again, to do another brief reflection. And this time it's going to focus around, what do you notice here and what do you wonder here? Okay, so save those notices and wonders on a piece of paper. You can type it in somewhere. You can even type it into the chat first, but don't press enter just yet. In a moment, I'm going to have us all waterfall that idea. So that all the responses come in at once. What do you notice and what do you wonder? And I'm going to type into the chat how I would like us to share our notices and wonders in a moment. So you're going to have a notice and you're going to have a wonder like this. Okay, and about 15 more seconds for our reflections of notices and wonders. All right, and please go ahead and start typing into that chat. And don't press enter just yet. Sorry, Lisa, that was my fault. I should have been a little bit more clear there. Okay, and thumbs up if you are ready to hit enter and to waterfall. All right, and on the count of 3, 1, 2, and 3. And as you're seeing all of these come in, I know it's a little bit hard sometimes because the chat keeps scrolling up, but try and scroll up and see what your colleagues are saying. And please feel free to comment, to ask them questions, and continue a conversation in the chat as well. Okay. We see connections between all 3, that they're interrelated. Yeah, right. There are some really strong connections there. I wonder how identity informs pedagogy. Why don't the arrows go back and forth? The cycle implies a constructivist approach. It's never ending. How do we work through each one? Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so I know you can take the time to look through those yourself. And yes, this is a way for us to visualize how these different, how each of these components are related and connected. And as some of you very astutely mentioned, what happens to these components if they are supportive of students? And what happens when they're not? Okay, I'm going to leave you with that question, and we're going to go to Matt.
Thank you, Amy. So one of the things I really liked how in the observations, rather the notices and the wonders, people were noticing the arrows and maybe pointing one way and wondering why they don't go the other way. I think that's a great observation. Thank you for sharing that. So one of the things also I think is important to highlight is within the cycle, ideally, these things are working towards positive identity formation, or all the things people mentioned earlier, the becoming. Noting becoming entails growth, evolving, learning, and many other things either imply or suggest anyways that that's a productive or positive thing, right? People didn't necessarily talk about shrinking, for example, or things along those lines. So in this ideal scenario, our pedagogy, we're inclusive, it's equitable, it's humanizing. And our students in this case, or everyone in the classroom, is experiencing those things which is to say that it's engaging, it's accessible, and we're connecting with what's happening. And all those experiences shape our identities. We are becoming, if you will. We are believing that we are smart, we are good students, we are a mathematician or a scientist or whatever the content areas that we're engaged in. And that informs how we are experiencing or what's going on with the pedagogy. And it's sort of a never-ending cycle, as many of you had noted there. But it's also important to note that while this is the ideal cycle, it doesn't necessarily always in the classroom work out ideally. And so there are scenario situations where if we're not being mindful of who our students are, and oh, sorry, can we go back 1 second?
Yes, sorry about that, Matt.
Amy, we're going to get to that in one moment, but I just want to point out that I don't see this necessarily as a starting point, right? Because as teachers, while we might start with the pedagogy, we could even back up a little bit and think first about who our students are and their identity. And that might inform the type of pedagogy that we use. If our students are not having a very positive or affirming identity, that might inform the type of pedagogy they want to include in our classrooms. And that in turn affects things. Anyhow, so I don't mean to suggest by any means that because the pedagogy is on top, or because that's where I started, that's the thing happening in this particular cycle. Now, sorry, Amy, you can go to the other slide.
I apologize. I apologize. Yeah, and this is just one way to think about connections. I love how so many of you are wondering, oh, but identity can really, inform some experiences too. So you'll see that there are many, many ways for these components to really interact with each other.
All right. Well, so sorry, I'm moving through these slides as well. So thinking about the student's perspective, this cycle could work against us if we aren't engaging students. And so let's think about what happens to these different categories if the cycle is not supportive of students. So if the pedagogy is inequitable, dehumanizing, right? So non-affirming kinds of pedagogy, and then experiences that feel perhaps irrelevant. Students feel disconnected and the material seems inaccessible for them. So how then does that shape identity? Does that create a sense of feeling shrinking or invisible, negative formation of the identity and feeling minimized? And then how does that inform how those students are going to then experience the pedagogy? I'm curious. I would like to have people maybe talk a little bit about what does inequitable and dehumanizing pedagogy look like? So can we get some thoughts in the chat, or maybe people raising their hands? Again, thinking about pedagogy, what might make for inequitable, right? Inequities in pedagogy, or a sense of dehumanizing.
When there's one perspective, like this is the right way to do it. Am I understanding you correctly, Jennifer?
Yeah, definitely. I was also thinking maybe from a history perspective too, just one voice, one perspective that's being taught or shown.
Yeah, especially if it's like a hegemonic perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, or?
Someone spoke about special education students.
Helena, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Me, that's what often happens with SPED kids. They get downplayed, pushed to the side. Somebody else is going to attend to them. They don't understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing. You know, whatever is the lesson is bypassing them. So it winds up being negative after negative after negative, instead of stopping for a little bit and helping them out to figure out what's going on, to ask them questions. Waiting a little bit for them to be able to get caught up, whatever, they just get, they get plowed over.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what happens with, Helena, what do you think happens then with, if these children are experiencing these disconnected, experiences, and they're not accessible to the students? What do you think happens with their identities?
Get smashed down. Day after day, month after month, year after year. Instead of being built up year after year, they're getting squashed down year after year.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful point. And if we think about the experience of a person, and especially a child, and underserved and marginalized populations, vulnerable populations here, what does that day-to-day negative formation do to somebody and how they feel about school?
And other people have chimed in as well with similar things similar to what Helena was saying, bias with regard to whose voices are heard and represented. Someone said no student voices literally in a classroom. Lack of student voice, agency, the lessons and learning that don't involve all the students. Grouping gender discussion topics, addressing student assets, attitudes, a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, self-fulfilling prophecies, right? We start to think the worst of ourselves. Right. Beautiful. All right, so clearly this is what we hope doesn't happen. And okay, and Matt.
Yeah, the gist behind this slide is just that earlier we didn't necessarily say that we were looking at this from a teacher or student perspective. So moving forward, I think we're really considering this, thinking about things from the teacher perspective, but also noting that this is context specific. So what's happening in one classroom can be very different from how students are experiencing in their identities in another classroom, even in the same content. So just want to highlight that before moving forward. Yeah.
And we really hope that, identity formation, that this positive formation can really help us, can help determine the development of some equitable and humanizing, pedagogies. And as you support your candidates, that we can also help them realize the important role that identity plays in pedagogy too. Okay, so how might that happen? Right? How can we actually concretize or implement some equitable, humanizing pedagogies so the engagement's going to be optimal for all learners in all classroom activities? And we've, proposed that perhaps using an existing UDL framework, and particularly the engagement principle, will put, will help us implement some of these helpful practices. As you all know, this framework is already used in many classrooms and many teacher education programs, and even pre-service assessments, such as the Cal TPA, if your institution uses that. So it's a wonderful existing lens for us. And sometimes this connection between the engagement guidelines and equity may not be so obvious, and especially in math and science. And so we'd like us to have a chance to look at these guidelines a little bit, and then to brainstorm and chat in the breakout sessions later. So right now, let's see. Can Matt or Lola, can you enter the link for the UDL into the chat? And these are the guidelines from CAST. And in the interest of time, we just want to focus on number 7 right here. So this is principle of engagement and guideline 7, recruiting interest, and this is what it looks like blown up. And I just want us to take a moment to just refamiliarize ourselves with this. So typically there are three principles here: engagement, representation, action, expression. And we know our students focus a lot on these two right here. They're thinking about ways to make things more visual, and they're thinking about how to help with language. And this engagement piece here is so important for equity. Not to say that the others are not, but this one is one that might be not as obvious. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go on and move to the next slide. Have we been able to click on the UDL link? Okay, beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Oops. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. All right. Are we all seeing a screen that says UDL structure? Okay, thank you. All right, so just so we have some shared understandings here, the engagement is the principle. Remember, there are three main engagements, and engagement is, sorry, three main principles, and engagement is one of them. Recruiting interest is guideline number 7. And within the guidelines, there are checkpoints here. So these are the bullet points. Okay, so 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3. And moving on to the next one, I'd like you to take a moment and just click on checkpoint 7.1. And this one is optimizing individual choice and autonomy. And we propose that the bullet points within the checklists of the engagement principle are the practices and the pedagogy circle from our engagement cycle. So when we think about how to make things, how to enact, and how to implement equitable and humanizing pedagogies, we can think about these bullet points here: autonomy, discretion, right? Context or content used, the tools for information gathering, color, design, graphics, sequencing, timing. These are all very specific practices that we can share with our teacher candidates that support equity.
And if I can chime in, Amy, I think sometimes these get underplayed, and that's why we're focusing on this engagement principle in particular. Sometimes this is where equity really shows up, by offering these different ways for students to participate and be autonomous in the classroom. So much can be built as far as like a classroom culture simply from these choices.
And Lola, thank you for bringing that up. A lot of times, my candidates ask me, oh, but I'm not being equitable if I'm not talking about things like race, and I'll say, okay, I can see why you think that. And I'd like to invite you to take a look at this and see, and to understand that, equity is actually something, it might be a little different than what you're thinking about. They might not need to be these very overt, conversations about just culture, but they can really be embedded in the norms of our classrooms and what we, how we structure activities and how we structure the classroom so that everybody can not only participate, but deeply engage and to bring themselves into that classroom. Okay. All right, so I know that you all, I think that you all might want a little bit of time to explore this a little further and to envision what this might look like for your disciplines and for your areas of focus. So we're going to have about 20 minutes of time now, possibly 25, for us to go into breakout rooms
Sorry, before we get there, can I
Sure.
just one recommendation here, since I don't know if you noticed earlier, the other session seems like didn't work out well. So we have 60 folks here. I don't know if we want to have multiple or more breakout rooms in this to maybe allow time for people to chat.
Yes, that would be great.
Do we want to talk about the Google Doc that we're going to have them?
Yes, go ahead. Let's see. Matt or Lola, can you
There it
pop
is.
the Google Doc into the chat?
It's in the chat. Yeah.
So that's just a space for you to, insert images, thoughts, notes. And the goal for that is so that we supervisors leave here with some ideas for each of these checkpoints. And as you get into the fall semester, hopefully you will be able to explore other checkpoints. But it might be nice to share some ideas so that you can see what other people are doing.
Can you?
Thumbs up?
Looks good. I see people are.
Yay, thank
writing.
you. All right, Andrew, can you go ahead and open that up? Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, 20 minutes, is that good?
Yeah, let's do 20 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
So we have a few minutes here left. So I wanted to draw your attention back to the Google document, and I'll just share screen a little bit. Please feel free to take a few moments to insert some big takeaway ideas or notes for yourself for next time, notes that you want to share with others, any links or resources. We had some wonderful discussions in 7.3 about how assessment ties into this and how it might look in different subject areas. So I would really love for us to put some of these ideas down on paper so that we can all have a resource while we leave. And as we do that also, is there anybody that would like to share some of their ideas in chat or to unmute and to talk about, something that was really striking or noteworthy from their breakout room?
I would like to say that one of our participants uses Zoom in the classroom, even though it's live, which helps the students to have more confidence in responding so she knows what's going on, but the students not necessarily upfront in themselves. And so it helps their confidence. I thought that was a really nice idea, and I know other people in the group commented.
What a novel way to do that.
I thought so too. Yeah.
How do they do that, Janice? If you could just tell us really quickly.
I'm not 100% sure. Maybe the person in that group who brought it up.
So we were obviously. So I decided to use Zoom because I have 35 kids in my classroom, and the kids in the back can't see the screen. And so since all my lessons were on Google Slides from the pandemic, I continued it. And so I just thought it was great for note taking, or when we're watching videos or we're watching that they have their iPad right in front of them and are able to view what I'm, displaying on the screen if they can't see it that well. And then it also allowed me to I put in all my Google Slides, like if I want them to do Google Forms and all that. So I could drop all that stuff still in there, and they have straight access to it, along with, we were talking about how to get engagement from all the kids. And that's one of the things is that I use the private chat for them to respond as well. I teach math and English language arts. And so it's just another way to get the kids that don't want to speak out loud to still participate and have a voice. And so when they do respond, I'll read their responses out loud and give them credit as well when they don't necessarily want to speak in front of the class or don't have the confidence to do that.
That is brilliant. Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you. So Lola,
Can I just be sure that my group could see my notes? Because what you popped up on the screen, I didn't see my notes in.
see. Can we verify that we can see?
I was in
Okay.
breakout room 1.
yeah, I'm seeing, because you've written about using games like Kahoots, right? Teachers questions, yeah, it's there. And I'll also
Okay.
type in.
Wonderful.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Matt and Lola, any concluding thoughts?
I'll just say that I hope that for those of you who are well versed on UDL, I hope this is just a helpful reminder of how useful this tool can be. For those of you who don't, I hope that you continue this momentum and think about how you might utilize UDL with your teaching candidates and their students. And I think you'll find that as you continue to explore, many of your teacher candidates might be doing some of these things already, which is helpful for them to realize that maybe I am incorporating some of these things into the classroom, which is great because remember, importantly, this is all about helping our students become, and all the work that we can do in that endeavor is what's most important.
And just the importance of becoming and engagement, right? So the classroom culture becomes, the identities of the students, and the identities of the students becomes that math identity, that science identity that we're looking for, because they're able to engage and they see themselves in that room in a safe way.
Thank you, Lola. Thank you, Matt. Thank you to everybody for engaging with this. We hope that this helps you become as the supervisors that you would like to be. And our emails are here on the last slide. The slides will be uploaded to the session folder. So please feel free to reach out to us if there are any other discussions or conversations you would like to have around this. And we wish you all a wonderful fall semester and a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good lunch, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.